Recently, I was lucky enough to be interviewed by Jade Starr as part of her new series called How to App. And she posed this question to me, and I thought it was super interesting. And I would, in fact, love to hear what your go to apps are. Which apps would you be lost without? Drop those down in the comments below. And while you're down there, you can also check out a link to the complete interview over on Jade's channel. It was super fun and a great chat, so I hope you can check that one out. But for now, let's jump into my 10 go to iOS apps.
Can you give me a list of 10 apps on iOS that if discontinued tomorrow would destroy your creative workflow?
I can indeed. I mean, these are going to be pretty obvious because,
Sure.
to be honest, like I've interviewed you, I've interviewed a lot of other folks, DeFingers, Marcus Manderson, like a lot of people that I've interviewed just show me their screen after screen of amazing apps, and I just don't use that many. Is the reality, but there are some that I do rely on. Can we just get it out of the way and say GarageBand is going to be the number one, because I have and do and probably always will use GarageBand for a lot of the production and a lot of the work that I do in iOS. It is just do you want me to should I just say the names, or do you want me to give a spiel about each one and why?
No, you can do it at whatever pace you like. I'm bringing them up as you're saying them. So
cool. So GarageBand, I mean, it's free. It is super powerful. It has evolved over time. It has its limitations, but I actually love its limitations because they actually make me more creative and find ways around. And I know you're an iOS hacker from way back, Jade, so you know the fun of finding a way to do something in something that's not designed to do it. That's always really cool. So I like that. But it covers all things. Like I can sit down with my kids and they can jump into Beat Sequencer and create a cool, unique beat in 8 bars in about 5 minutes. Or I can record an entire 12, 16, 24 track rock track with real drums and real guitars and real vocals. So it is so flexible with all the things you can do. So no big surprise. Pete likes GarageBand. I know, right on the walls, because no one knew that going in.
Damn straight.
Number 2 is super boring. And it's actually, you kind of get it by default, but it's something that I use all the time, and it's the Files app. You're like, oh, Pete, this is really boring.
No.
Files is essential. Before we had Files, like to manage files, I mean, there were things like documents. I know you use use documents a lot, and other ways to actually manage your files. But just having your iCloud drive, all the stuff that's on your iPad or your iPhone, your AudioShare files, if you're me, and that's a hint for another one coming up. And then you can also like add all your locations. So Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, they're all just there in one spot. And so it just means you can access everything you have, drag things around, put them around. And since iOS 13 added compression for zipping stuff up and unzipping stuff, that's been a huge game changer, because Apple don't like their file systems are not compatible with other file systems. So if you've got a GarageBand file, you've got an iMovie project, you've got a lot of other files that are Apple, if you try to put them on Google or Dropbox or OneDrive, they will just instantly corrupt and fail. So you need to zip them up, and that's what I use Files for. If that went away, not being able to collaborate and just send you off a bunch of WAV files by zipping them up, or send you off a GarageBand file by zipping it up, that would definitely hurt my creativity.
It would be a lonely time as collaborators.
Would. So, which takes me to AudioShare. Now, you talked about AudioShare yesterday, the day before. I think every episode, you're probably going to mention AudioShare in almost every episode of this series, because it is like the linchpin. It's like if the Lightning to USB adapter is the linchpin of your hardware, AudioShare is the linchpin of your software, because without it, you can do things, but they just take 3 times as long and are 10 times as complicated. So AudioShare is, if you don't know about it, it's a high-quality audio recorder. So you can just set it, hit record. You can adjust bit rate, sampling rate, recording quality. It is a ability to transfer, so it shares per its name. It's got a Wi-Fi drive feature, and then it's got copy and paste features that you can copy and paste between different apps, which you showed with Grand Finale yesterday. And it's the Swiss Army knife of apps for iOS. If you create audio, and even if you don't, I use it in weird ways. I use it to transfer my video files that I record on my computer with OBS. I just log into the Wi-Fi drive here. I send video file to my iPhone. I then combine that with the screen recording from my iPhone and edit in LumaFusion right here on my phone. So it can do things outside of just audio. It can do file sharing and a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah.
It's the cost of a cup of coffee, and it'll change your whole workflow. It's amazing.
Agreed. Let's talk some plugins. I know you like a good plugin.
Yeah.
First plugin here is one that I would not leave home without. Is the LRC5 EQ plugin from Neon Silicon.
Damn
So
straight.
before this, we have the visual EQ on GarageBand. So you've got your 3 bands, but the challenge with the visual EQ is you don't have any proper shelf filters. You don't have any ability to adjust the Q setting, which is how wide or how narrow your EQ is, and you've only got maximum of 3 bands. What LRC5 does is it gives you a full 5-band parametric EQ right in your iPhone or your iPad. It's an AUV3 plugin. You can use it in GarageBand or any other DAW in iOS, and it just works. It's just simple, doesn't hog up a bunch of processing power. Stick it at the end of all of your chains, and then you can do pinpoint little tiny tweaks. Like, so when I was mastering, I just threw LRC5, and I'm like, there's a little tiny sort of hissy, essy sound there that I'm hitting in one of my songs. I think it was Fence Sitter, and I found that by pinpointing it with the EQ, and then I just dropped it down about 3 dB at that frequency, and that little tweak just made those squeaky bits at the top end just slightly rolled off and worked a treat. So yeah.
I had no idea you could notch filter until I saw you use it the other day in your mastering video. I've been using it like it's on every track I use, and then I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I think I spent like 180 on the whole suite of, oh God, what's the brand of, I forget what they called, the high end. No, I can't even think of what they're called. Doesn't matter. And I've mainly got them anyway for the notch filtering, and then LRC's got it. Unbelievable.
It does. Yeah, it is. It's about a $30 app for free. Like really, in terms of value,
sure
of you
is.
get out of it. Others, it's worth getting.
Okay.
Next, right. Next is the plugin that my wife finds the funniest name of a plugin, and that is the Rough Rider.
Oh yeah.
Free plugin.
Oh
She
yeah,
said,
cowboy.
There's not really an app called Rough Rider. I'm like, there is, and it's awesome. So Rough Rider.
Well, it's
2
number 3 as well. So
It is. It's the third. It's people loving it so much they want 3 Rough Rides. So Rough Rider 3 is a compressor, but it's not your everyday compressor. This ain't your grandma's compressor. This is a compressor that's got some guts to it. It's got some dirt. It's got some grit. You can drive it up. You can put it on your vocals, your guitars, your drums, your entire master if you want to just give it. And I think you were talking yesterday in Grand Finale that sometimes you want to compress things, sometimes you want to use volume, but sometimes you just want to you want to rub it in the dirt a bit. You want to dirty things up a bit, and Rough Rider can do that without, because the thing, people go distortion and they like turn the volume up and then things start clipping. Rough Rider gives you the benefit of having that graveliness without actually struggling and clipping and getting that horrible distortion in the top end. Yeah. Love me some Rough Rider.
yeah, it's Rough Rider. It's rougher than your grandma's surgical stockings. It's hot.
Speaking of plugins, so there's some freebies. If you got some cash to spend, I would spend it. Basically, if you want something that's really simple but also has a whole bunch of bells and whistles and can do things, you can't go past the FAC range of plugins. So FAC Maxima, it's by Fred Anton Corvest, who's a developer who does some really good stuff. The Maxima plugin it's like a compressor, but it's also, it's a bit of a limiter. It does a lot of things. You can tweak it. You can use it as a brick wall limiter on your masters. You can use it as just like a nice hard compressor on your guitars. It does everything. It looks cool. So apps that look cool, like they do actually make you a bit more inspired sometimes. If you turn a cool knob and a dial and you get a cool little visual display, don't underestimate the value of something that looks cool. Apple have been trading off that for 20 years. So if it looks cool, sometimes it is. Go with FAC. The Chorus is also cool too. If you're going to pick up another Maxima plugin, FAC Maxima, FAC Chorus, he's got Bandit, he's got Evolver. There's so many cool things that you can delve into. You'll protect. Don't have too much spare space on your credit card, or you'll probably give Fred about $100 because he's just got a heap of cool apps. Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm just looking at them here. I haven't bought any of them. That's terrible. There's only so much money in the world, and I already have I think my entire App Store collection, not just music apps. I think I'm up to 52,000 apps. It's pretty mental. That's just, that's saved in my cloud. So.
Well, there you go. Well, we need to get you some FAC. I'll have a word to Fred. We'll see if we can pull some strings. Maybe we could do reviews on some FAC apps since you're doing this daily app show.
Damn straight.
Alrighty, let's moving on here. Nembrini. Now, I know you've been checking out some of the Nembrini stuff lately. Sure. They have kind of been a little revolutionary in recent times. They brought out a bunch of free plugins, a free noise gate and a chorus and a bunch of other guitar plugins. They're very guitar focused. And the one that I think you should definitely check out and try is the Crunck the Nembrini Crunck
Yep.
Crunck V2. It is an AUV3. It's an amp sim. It's a simple amp sim. You can get the paid version of all these apps that have a whole bunch more features, but if you just want a different sound, and if you're bored with the GarageBand amp sims, but you don't want to spend a bunch of coin, grab Crunck V2 and just start tweaking and playing around with it. And if you couple that with some of their plugins, their sort of analog rack plugins that you can put in there as well, which again, there's I think 4 of them are free and the rest of them are all paid. Yeah, you basically got your own like mini guitar rig there. You can set up your own little pedal board with all the different pedals that they have available. So, Nembrini are doing some really good things. And again, the developers there are good. They listen to what their users have to say, and I appreciate that too. I think when it's a two-way partnership with a developer and the end user, it makes better apps if they're actually listening to what their users are actually saying and making updates based on that.
I'm just looking at their list. It looks like there's about 9 free apps because they're all the ones that I own.
There were some that were free that are now paid again.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Promo about a couple of months ago, so there may be. So I got in trouble the other day. Someone again down the hater stuff, and which is legitimate because I had a free plugin video and it had all these Nembrini apps, and then they came and they put a big comment saying none of these are free. You suck, and you should feel bad.
No.
I'm like, sorry, I do feel bad, and I had to change the thumbnail to say apps instead of free apps.
Oh my god, love you! You actually went back and did it.
I did. I
So kind.
Mislead. I hate clickbait and passion, so I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not clickbaiting anyone, and I'm not going to put free when they're not free. How many's that? We're 7, I recken. So I reckon we've got more to go. How are we for time? I do rabbit on a bit. Let's talk piano. Now this isn't a cheap app, but it's one that if you love piano, you'll love this app. And thank you to Thomas. I can't remember your surname now, Thomas. From the GarageBand users group, he put me onto this app. It's Ravenscroft 275. It is, in my opinion, I've tried a few different piano apps. I've tried some of the trials and some of the paid apps. It just has the best natural sampled piano sound of anything.
Yep.
It is the piano, completely untouched, the complete default piano sound. I didn't tweak it in the slightest. That is what's on Things Have Changed. And to me, that is what makes that song good. Again, that's not to say, oh, it's only the piano, but it's what makes the song stand out to me is that it's got that could be a real piano. And again, that's a testament to the quality of that. That was me playing on my little MIDI keyboard, but it actually sounds like a grand piano in a hall being sampled, because that's exactly what it is. The Ravenscroft 275, not cheap. Do you have that up there? Is it like all the money?
It's like $55. I've got it. So mine just says open. So, but I remember when I did pay for it, it was like, oh God, handing over that much money for an app. It's just like giving blood.
Not cheap, but worth it.
It's a beautiful app.
Yeah, no, it just works a treat. And AUV3 again. So if you're not familiar, if you're newer to iOS, which I know not many folks watching this would be, but the benefit of AUV3 versus inter-app audio is that you can record it as MIDI, which means you can go in and edit, and it means you can bring in other things. You can import MIDI files. You can move things around from one instrument to another. It just gives you a heap more flexibility than using the actual audio recording. 2 more to go.
Sure.
And these are probably the 2 that I would be sort of lost without. One is Wizibel or Wizibel. It's Wizibel. This is by Clevgrand. I love Clevgrand. I love their apps. They're quirky. They're simple. They just do a thing, and they do the thing they do well. The reason I like this is that I'm not a designer. Unlike Jade, I don't spend 6 hours designing assets and doing design work. I like to just have something that works well. So if you watch the EP or any of the videos that I've released on my channel of the EP, they have that nice little waveform there. They have the album cover. They have a background image that I can set the transparency and the blur to, so it kind of looks all arty and nice. And they take about 5 minutes to do with Wizibel. If I tried to do something like that myself, it would take me several hours. So again, it's a paid app, and I know that there's other visualizers you can get that are free, but it just does it. Like, again, you just put your song in there. You've got a bunch of different templates and presets. You can just tweak it to your heart's content, and then you export it, and then you upload it. So if you're a music creator and you want to create cool little visualizations of your songs, but you don't want to spend hours doing lyric videos or creating your own designs, Wizibel is the way to go.
Yep.
Last but not least is the wonderful one. Again, Clevgrand get a few mentions here because they make good stuff. It is Brusfri, mostly because I love saying the word Brusfri, Brusfri. Why Brusfri is good is it's a noise reduction plugin that you can use on literally everything. So if you have noisy recordings, you should try and not get noisy recordings. So yes, the first bit of advice is try to get it right at the source. Don't just record stuff at really high gain with lots of noise floor and stuff. Try to go somewhere quiet and record it and use the best gear you can. But because we're all in the home studios, we're not in perfectly treated rooms. Sometimes we're recording on our freaking phone. So you do want to be able to, if you get a recording where you get a beautiful performance, but the recording's just not quite right, Brusfri can work. And again, I used Brusfri on the vocal, but things have changed because it was actually a demo vocal take that I did. And here's another lesson here. When you're recording a demo, record it as best you can because you never know. That may be just that one performance that you capture that you will never capture again. You'll never be able to recreate that performance. So that was actually the demo guide vocal that I recorded for that. And it just was so in the pocket and it just worked so well with the piano that I wanted to use it. So Brusfri to the rescue, jumped in there. All you need to do is sample the background noise without your actual audio. So as long as you got a little bit of just the hiss or the static or whatever you're hearing, you hit the ear button, it samples that, and then it just filters that out. It uses some cool EQ and some other voodoo that I don't understand, and it actually uses some magic to remove some of that noise, and it's actually quite phenomenal how good it works.
It's incredible.
I don't know how it does it.
I'm looking on their page, and there's one review for it, right? 1 out of 5, actually. Holy shit.
Not worth the money. Bought this at half price and it was still a bit too much.
Oh my god!
Was that Gladys Worthington that bought it?
This is Harold, some old guy just sitting there. Is this the complaints department? I'm just ringing to complain to the complaints department. Is this where I just complain? Like seriously. They got it at half price. It cost $20 or whatever. So you're getting it for $10, and they're still like, nah, it does reduce a little bit of noise, but it's not magical. That's what it says. It's not magical.
I had a jackhammer in the background, and it didn't even reduce it much at all.
Unbelievable what people think they can get for $10.
Yes, yeah. So that's my 10.
Awesome, thank you.
And I'm intrigued now because I want everyone else to do this. I want you to interview a bunch of other cool people and get their 10 so that I know what I should be using.